All right, welcome to the second installment of this series, I suppose. Today I want to show you the basics on how to get Avalonia data binding and like view switching to work so that you can actually, with the click of a button, switch to a new view in your application. The Avalonia tutorials make it more difficult than it needs to be. So I hope I can provide a bit of an easier approach. It is the same approach they're using. I just hope that I can give you a bit of an easier explanation because most of you have probably figured out how to put in certain controls by now, how to actually make your GUI look like something, but you're just stuck at the phase where you need to go to a new view or you need to use data binding to change something on screen. So I hope that I will be able to give you a small introduction here. Right. So let's get started. If you don't remember from the previous video or haven't seen the previous video, which you should if your IntelliSense or your Avalonia extension is not working, so then you should definitely check out the previous video to make sure that these two are working because they are going to become essential. So if everything is working fine for you, small recap. What I did in the last video is I created a .NET new avalonia.mvvm in the project.gui folder. I will not run this because I've already done it, but the important thing is you want to use avalonia.mvvm, okay? You don't want to use code behind. Because MVVM it's kind of the industry standard. It is a bit more difficult to get started with. But once you actually get it rolling, it becomes relatively easy. And you also, like, it becomes a lot easier to maintain and your code is a lot easier to handle, to manage. So we are going to look into that today. So in your project.gui folder, I will go there real quick and .NET run it to demonstrate to you that this is the standard Avalonia application without any changes when you create the MVVM model. So what most of you will likely be struggling with is that on some of your devices, it looks very different than on others. And that is due to the default theme. While it is possible to have Avalonia just be black and white instead of white and black when your native theme, as you can see here, is set to dark mode. To get started with, it's not a good idea. So the actual very first thing you should do is in your app.axaml, set the requested theme variant to light. You can see if I run it now, even though my system is set to dark mode, as you can see here, for instance, or here, we now have a light app, which will be the same on every computer because you have hard-coded it in now. So that is actually what we want to be working with. The next thing that you will need for your semester project application are a few extra packages. So you want to open your project.gui.cs project, and you can see we're using avalonia.reactive UI, but we also need the regular reactive UI. So the first thing we want to add is .NET add package reactive UI. And that will just add the reactive UI package to your assembly, is it called? I'm not 100% sure. But what you also most likely want to use is .NET add package avalonia.datagrid. I hope that's nope. Okay. Unfortunately, it's case sensitive. It might just be lowercase everything, actually. Just a sec. Okay. It turns out that the data grid is actually part of avalonia.controls, which you also want to use, by the way. But apparently that can't be added. Okay, avalonia.controls.datagrid can be added. Oh yeah. Avalonia.controls comes with Avalonia, just the data grid doesn't. But the data grid you most likely want to use to display your source data, and I will provide a tutorial for that as well, just not in this video. But these few things are the things you want to use. These are the packages you need. The next thing you want to do in your view model base, make sure that we are using reactive UI and that the view model base inherits from the reactive object. Okay, now we can actually get started. So I will quickly code a small lightweight application and then get back to you. Okay, so here's all I did. I made the background a less blinding light gray, and on top of here we have a 50 pixel bar in an ugly mint green with a little file icon and saying Avalonia, just as a small demonstration and to show you the first principle that we're going to be using here. So this here is completely empty. Nothing is here. And this on top, this is sort of a bar that I will have everywhere in my application. Sort of like in Microsoft Word, when you're in the main editor, you like always have the bar on top, no matter which page you're on. Sort of like this. But the way I did this is I just created a grid with 2 rows, the first one being 50 pixels, the remaining one filling the rest of the space. And with a stack panel in grid row 0, with the background being this ugly mint green and the horizontal orientation. We have an image pointing to /assets/file icon, and we have a label. Not stylized at all, not beautiful, but that's okay. So the first thing I want to try out is running the Avalonia create preview assets command. Let it build the project, and then have it show you a preview. And that works. Now, as soon as you get to data binding, the preview is going to get difficult. It's going to get a bit messed up, but that's okay. You can always just run your application to see the preview. The preview is not perfect, but it's a good. Now, what many of you most likely did wrong is the fact that you just started to write your first page in your main window. And I did the same. So you have your first page, you have, I don't know what, you have a nice main menu with some options. And then you're actually faced with the fact, how do we navigate? Well, here's the thing, windows are not for that. A window is the physical thing that you saw. It can create content, sure, that's easy. But it shouldn't. What you really want to use is a user control. What you see in views. You have a main window view right now, and you have a main window code behind file. Now, you actually want to use a view and then bind to that view. How do we do this? So in your project.gui, you want to say .NET new Avalonia.usercontrol -o views, to put it in your views folder, -n, give it a name. For me, it will be main app view, and -- namespace, and in my case that's project.gui, which is the namespace that we have here, like my standard namespace, and then .views. And that will give us our main app view.axaml, which is saying welcome to Avalonia, and our main app view.cs. Now you may get an error saying that this initialized component does not exist. Yeah, don't worry about that. It's not an error. It sometimes likes to show it's perfectly fine. You don't have to worry about it at all. It will not appear at runtime. Now, the next thing you need to do is, because we're working with MVVM principles, you need to also create a view model. So you want to create a new C# class and call it accordingly. In my case, it's main app view model. This class is going to inherit from a view model base, which is this file right here, which we established needs to be a reactive object for the data binding to work smoothly. And for now, That's really all we need. We can run our project. Oops, yeah, that was the wrong command. We can run our project again. And there isn't any error. Now we want to get to the actual binding part. So in your main window view model, what you first want to do is you want to create an empty constructor. First, what I will do is show you how the basic principle of data binding works. For that, I am going to create a private string title text. It's important that it starts lowercase, okay? And under that, I'm going to create a public string title text, which is uppercase. You open the curly braces to get your getters and setters, and I'm already getting the autocomplete here. You want to have your getter as not quite like that. If you just put title, like get title text, that should be enough, and the same thing for the setter. And you need to use the equal sign and then the like the closed triangular bracket. For me, it automatically puts it into this little arrow. So that is how you want to do it. So you want to get equals closed triangular bracket title text with a lowercase t. And the setter is this dot raise and set if changed, reference to title text, comma, value. Now, you will most likely get an error that says does not contain definition for raise and set if I should talk slowly, sorry. Getting an error for raise and set if changed, and you just want to use reactive UI and that will disappear. In your constructor, you want to give title text a value. So in my case, yeah, main window, that's a good one. That's a good one to start with. So that is the first thing, okay? The second thing, we want to have the title text change with the click of a button. So I'm going to create public void title text button clicked. And in here, all I want to say is title text equals click. Okay. Let's go over a few things before we continue. Why do we need this complicated these complicated getters and setters for our public string? So the public string is what we will actually bind. You see, the raise and set if changed was contained in the reactive UI. So this is basically responsible for watching this variable, see if it changes, and if it changes, it will tell the UI, which is binding to that variable, hey, I've changed, update it in the GUI, please. And that's what we are now going to look at. So I will head back into my main app view, sorry, the main window view, and in my stack panel, I will remove the text in the label, and I will say content equals, and then in quotes and curly braces, binding, and it was it named? No, it was title text, I believe. Was it? Yes, it was title text. Okay. And behind that label, I want to create a button with, let's say, a margin of 10 pixels to the left. The button will have a command binding title text button clicked, like that, and change title is what we will call the button. Now, this will not work. It shouldn't, I believe. Oh, no, it does work. I was expecting an error. We will get to that. Don't worry. So if I click change title, it should, in theory, call this method, title text button clicked, which will change our title text variable to click, which we will then see in here. And that worked. That is the basic, those are the basics of content binding. That's all you have to do. You can call methods, you can read from variables. It's that simple. Now, let's get rid of that again, because we don't actually need it here. Keep the error I mentioned earlier that I was expecting in mind, because I was expecting this not to run, and we will get to that, okay? So don't worry. I will also revert all my changes here. There you go. And now we will actually get to the important bit, binding your view model. So first of all, you want to create a private view model base. And this is the data type you want to use. I think it's a type. I'm not 100% sure. Don't trust my terminology to be 100% right. I'm just saying what I think is right terminology-wise. Either way, you know, all your view models inherit from the view model base. So if you want a single data type where you can create all of your view models, that's the one. So we will call that content view model. Then we want to create a public view model base, content view model with a capital C. And we already get our autocomplete suggestion here. We want to do it the same as earlier. Feel free to pause to put this in here. But yeah, that's basically it. Now, let's talk about hierarchy for a second. Similarly, how your code is indented and put in brackets, that's also how it is going to work for your windows. I can actually show this to you if it runs without error, which it does. If you run your application and hit F12, you get the Avalonia DevTools, which, oh my god, are blinding me right now in white. But you can see you also have a hierarchy view. So basically the main window is responsible for the grid. The grid is responsible for the stack panel and so on. And it works the same way with your window and all the user controls it contains on this level here, basically on the grid level. What do I mean by this? You will see. We have created our main app view model. I, for instance, in my main window, have my main app view model. I have my main menu view model, and I have the about view model. I will actually show you a demonstration of that because I have my other project pulled up just here. So let me run that for you real quick. It's on my left monitor. I will drag it over as soon as it starts. There you go. It's already here. So this is my main menu view model. This is my about view model. And once I hit new project, we will go here. All of this is my main app view model. And all of those are contained and saved in as an object in my main window view model. Now, my main app view model is actually only this stripe on the right. You can see if I click between sections, I get totally different things. So I have new user controls, new view models. And now the main app view model is responsible for, in this case, managing the grid and units view model, managing the source data view model, and managing the optimization view model. That is basically how this works, and that is what you have to keep in mind. It's operating on layers, like an onion. So in here, you need to create a reference to your main app view model. So you will create a public main app view model, and you just call that main app without the fancy view model and without the bracket. There you go. You don't need to do any more actually. So in here, you will set the main app, like in your constructor, to a new main app view model. And then the content view model, you will set to main. Oh my God, please. There you go. You will set to main app. Now you have a content view model, which we can bind so it shows in your main window. And because it is a view model base variable with the this.raise instead of changed, we can bind to it and it will react to changes. So we will get there in a second. Outside my stack panel in the next grid, I will create a user control. Content is equal to binding content view model. And that should be all that is required. Now your window should be set up correctly. But before you run it, just make sure it creates all of those three things. We have the xmlns::vm is using project.gui.viewModels. This should be the right namespace to your view models. Then x class should be project.gui.views.mainWindow. That should be the class that is defined here in your main app view.axaml.cs. And last but not least, x data type should be vm::mainWindow view model, which is this class right here. So our main app view model, our main app view is right now just saying welcome to Avalonia. And as we run our application, yeah, you can see it says welcome to Avalonia up there. That is a little oversight on my end. I forgot to put the user control in grid.row 1. Make that a quote. So now if I run it, it should actually be in the right thing. There you go. Now, let me get a drink real quick. There you go. So that is the first step. Okay, so in that view model, in your main app view, yeah, you can just, let's put that in a label, nice and simple. And then you also want to have a button, command, and we will bind that to change view model. So we'll get that. What did I want to? Yes, okay. So this binding, change view model, you need to create that in your main window. Because remember, your main window view model is responsible for storing all of your view models that are going to be used on like the next layer. So as long as in your main app view model, you don't have something like I had with the sidebar that requires multiple view models within your main app view model, it is going to be a view model on the window base, like with the window as a parent, which makes binding a little bit more tricky, but do not worry, it's going to be okay. So first of all, we're going to create a new view model to test this on. So we will add a .NET new avalonia.userControl. We will put it in a views folder, name it new view model, very creative, and we put that in the namespace project.gui.viewModels, and we will get that created. Oh, I made a little mistake here. It should have, of course, been the namespace .views. So if you make that error, don't worry. You just need to change that in your C# file right here, and then also in your x:: class. And we have welcome to Avalonia. Okay. You also want to create a view model for that one. So that will be new view model. And I just realized we of course need to rename this because it's not new view model, it's new view. That was an amateur mistake, but oh well. New view.axaml.cs. Okay. There you go. Yeah, initialize component. Nothing new. Oh, new view. Not new view model. The class needs to be correct, of course. Same here. New view. Okay, now I fixed it. Your new view model is, of course, using reactive UI, and it's going to inherit from view model base. Okay, you don't actually need to do any bindings here. That's all you had to do. But in your main app, in your user controls, as well, okay, the bike is passed, as well in your new view. So basically all the new user controls you create, they are missing some important things. They are missing the actual MVVM linking to actually make the bindings work. So what you want to do is you want to go in your main window, AXAML, and you just copy this line here, the XMLNS:VM line. And that needs to be put in your main app view as well as your new view. Okay. And then you also need to set x::data type to VM::new view model. And you do the same for the main app view. x::data type equals app view model. Now they're bound, and we are ready to continue where we left off. Of course, this constructor needs to be new view, not new view model. My bad. Now, in your main window view model, the window one, not the main app, you want to actually create the method for public void change view. I think it was. Yeah, change view model. Okay. Let's actually keep that at change view. I like that better. And all we want to do in here is we want to set content view model to new. Yeah, it's I'll call it new view here, which of course we need to create public new view model, new view, and that is set new view equals new view model. New view, oh god. There you go. Same here. Okay. You always want to set them in your constructor. Okay. Now can change the content view model to new view. Now here is an issue. In our main app, we are using a binding to the change view method. However, our main app is bound to our main app view model, which main app, not app, main app, which is the correct thing to do. That's what we want. But our method is in our main window view model, because that's where we are defining all the view model objects to switch between. So what we need to do is, I will actually, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to .NET run it. We will now get an error. Missing partial modifier on declaration type new view model, and that's a very different error. Okay, 1 second. Okay, the issue with that is since I accidentally ran the command that created the new view model in our views, we actually had 2 definitions for new view model. So if I now run again, we will get the actual error that I wanted to show you. Nope, that is also not the actual one. Okay, just another second. Okay, I figured out that error. Let's have a look. Unable to find a setter that allows multiple assignments to the property content of avalonia.controls.avalonia .controls.content controls. So this is because my label and button are both in the user control. So in your user control, you can only have one control that is like in there. So our content is now in the stack panel, and if I run it now, yes, now we actually get one of the errors that I wanted to show you. You can see Avalonia has a lot of errors that can sometimes be hard to decipher, but you will eventually get behind them. So let's have a look at this one. Unable to resolve the type main app view model from the namespace https github.com/avalonia UI. That's an interesting one. Okay, I will have a look at it and then be back. Okay. I forgot to put the VM colon in front of here in the X data type. Due to forgetting that, it was using the standard namespace that I defined in XMLNS, which is github.com/avalonia UI. Now, if I run it, we should hopefully finally get the actual error that I wanted to show you after so many others. So we have unable to resolve property or method of name change view on type project.gui.viewModels.main.viewModel. So remember, change view is the binding that we have here for the command. And if we have a look at our main app view model, where is it? We have nothing in here because the change view is in our main window. Now, how can we bind it anyways? This is going to be a bit of a difficult one to wrap your head around, but let's just have a look at it. So the binding you want to use is $ parent square brackets window. Then outside those square brackets, a period. You open two braces. In there you type VM main window view model. Then you step one space to the right outside the innermost curly braces. Data context. One step to the right again. So you're between the closed curly brace and closed normal brace. And in here, colon, and here you actually want to put your method name. So in our case, change view. That allows us to, in our main app view, like our main, I wrote that in the main window binding. Okay. Now we have the content view model binding again. You, of course, want to put that in the main app view. Something is not right with me today. I am so sorry for some of the confusion that I'm most likely causing here, but we will figure this out. Now, if I run this, we're not getting any errors, hopefully. We have a button here. Okay, let me just quickly give a content to that button so it's easier to see and easier to click. This one says, welcome to Avalonia with a click me button. And if I click it, you saw the change. Welcome to Avalonia. We are now in our new view. So those are the basics I wanted to show you here. I was actually preparing for this a little bit, and you could see still so much went wrong. And honestly, that is just Avalonia for you. You will run into a lot of walls. You will run into a lot of errors. And I know for a fact that these can be really intimidating at first, and you just cannot wrap your head around them. So that we got a lot of errors today is actually a good thing, because I could just pause the recording, figure them out, and then tell you what those actually mean to help you resolve some of your most common errors. Furthermore, a small analogy that I had when starting with Avalonia for how it like is it an analogy or a metaphor? I don't know. Basically, Avalonia feels like a big ice wall, and you are given oily gloves to climb that wall. And eventually, as you get started with it, as you start to understand it, you're first climbing without the oily gloves, and then you're actually given ice picks. It's still difficult to get up with the ice picks, but at least you can start to make progress. And I believe that is the point where you are at right now. If you were able to follow along here, if you were able to understand the things that I explained to you in this video. And yeah, for your semester project, if you tried some crazy other solutions to change between your views that did not work out for you, I recommend that you just scrap everything you've done, except, of course, your views and some of your code behind if it has actual business logic. And you just create a new blank avalonia.mvvm pattern. Get this navigation with your blank windows up and running. And then you can copy the relevant content of your old windows over into your new AXAML files and your new view models. Make sure that you don't have any old bindings in there that might lead to errors. You know what the binding error looks now. It will be unable to resolve property or method of change view. Here in the main view.axml, it tells you the file. This is the row. This is the column. I don't know why it says it twice. But that would hopefully help you to get a good start. If you need it, if you need two-way binding for your application, then have a look at the to-do list tutorial where they are going over how to actually input data and then submit that with a button. That will be the two-way binding you should look at. And hopefully I was able to give you a smoother start with Avalonia here than we had in our lectures or the tutorials were able to do. I don't know if I'll do it today, but I will also tell you in another video a few things about the data grid, how to work with that, and for the more advanced use, how to style it. This has already been a huge chunk. We're nearing 40 minutes, so I'm going to end it here. I'm going to upload a very small bonus video on how to make your VS Code look cool, which you may watch after you've successfully set up your Avalonia application with the view model change as a little treat, as a little reward to yourself, because even if you needed the help of this video and you weren't able to figure it out yourself, that's totally fine. I had to figure it out myself because no one could explain it to me, and I really wish that someone had explained it to me because it cost so much time and it was so nerve-wracking. And I feel like it's a lot easier than the tutorials make it out to be. So yeah, as a little treat to yourself for having come this far, watch that video on how to make your VS Code super cool. And yeah, once you get to that point where you're actually working with your source data, I will see you in the data grid video. Until then, have a good one.